We all have mental health the same way we all have physical health. Our mental health is about how we behave, think, and feel.
Our mental health is on a spectrum. We can go from feeling well to feeling unwell and struggling. Mental health is everyone's business. It doesn't matter who you are, what your religion is, or what you do.
A mental health problem is when the way that we think, feel, or behave comes a bit too difficult to cope with. We can all feel stressed, angry, or anxious at times, but a mental health problem is when these feelings affect us most days, interfere with things that we normally enjoy doing, or makes us feel like we're not really coping anymore.
We might call a mental health problem poor emotional health, a mental illness, or emotional difficulties. There are many different types of mental illnesses, and 1 in 4 of us will suffer at some point in our lifetime. There are many different causes of mental health difficulties. They can be genetic, environmental, and something that is going on currently in our lives.
The most common mental health difficulties are anxiety and depression. However, there's many types of mental health difficulties.
Common changes we tend to notice in anxiety are feeling tired, on edge, irritable or restless, difficulty sleeping, headaches or stomach aches.
Some common changes that we tend to notice in depression are feeling tired, sad, having a lack of self-confidence, feeling irritated or angry. But some physical changes that we might also see are some headaches, stomach aches, or some behavioural changes, such as lack of interest in doing things that we normally enjoy doing, or cancelling plans with friends.
First started to notice that things weren't right and that I was feeling very anxious as I got into my teenage years. But it really kicked in, and I got really anxious as I started in secondary school, because it was that transition where everything changed and everything was different. And I started to have panic attacks in the corridors at school. In my first GCSE exam, I had a nosebleed because I was so worried about sitting the exam. I think it took me a really long time to get support for my mental health, because I was kind of ticking all of the boxes of being well, in the way that they kind of see it in school. So I was going to school every day, I was always on time, my grades were good, attendance was good, so nobody kind of picked me up as needing support, even though I was incredibly anxious. I think my mum noticed as I got older. She could see in me that the anxiety was leading me into depression, and I was feeling very low in mood. There was a time where I couldn't leave my house for several months, and my mum kind of picked up on that, and she asked me to go to the doctor with her, and I said yes, and we went along. But I wasn't really truly honest or open about the extent of how much I was struggling with my mental health. I just kind of said, oh, I get a bit anxious sometimes and I'm a bit sad. So they kind of put me on a waiting list for therapy, talking therapies. And during that time, the way that I was coping was not in a very healthy way, but I didn't tell anyone. I had a lot of shame and stigma about the fact that I was self-harming. So nobody knew about that. No, I didn't tell the doctor, I didn't tell my mum. But it became necessary for me to have to do so because I needed immediate medical attention. And at the time, this was really scary, and I was worried about what people's reactions would be. But actually, it was really helpful because it meant that people knew exactly the kind of help that I needed and support that I needed and just how much I was struggling. What really helped me in my recovery was talking to specialists. So I saw a psychiatrist, I saw a CBT therapist, so cognitive behavioural therapist. And I saw these people alongside taking antidepressant medication, which helped me to sort of get out of that first real fog of depression and anxiety. And some other things that I've kind of learned to help myself have been things like practicing mindfulness. And also, I really love doing creative things. So I love baking cakes, I love knitting, I love doing crochet. And the one thing which I never expected to help me, but really does, is being active. So I got back into cycling, which I loved doing as a child, but I kind of grew scared of and less did as a teenager. And giving me that freedom going back outside has been amazing. And also it really does actually help to improve your mood. So like when people are like, if you exercise, you'll be happy. And I was always like, okay. But then realizing that like when I found the exercise that suited me, which was riding my bike, that was really helpful.
So how can we look after our mental health? You may have heard some coping strategies in Catherine's story. Coping strategies are ways in which we can manage our thoughts, feelings, and behaviours.
There are many different types of coping strategies. Today we are going to look at the 5 ways to well-being which have been found to improve our mental health. Research done by the New Economic Foundation found that regularly carrying out these 5 activities improves our mental well-being. We are now going to take a closer look at these ways.
There is strong evidence that suggests that feeling close to and valued by others is a fundamental human need and is important to our well-being. Good relationships can build a sense of belonging and self-worth, as well as provide us with emotional support. When we feel low or anxious, we tend to withdraw away from others when in actual fact, connecting at that time can be one of the most important things we do. Similarly, when we're feeling low or anxious, the thought of exercise can seem like a chore and often the last thing we want to do. However, it is definitely one of those things where we feel better once we've done it. Multiple studies have found that exercise can reduce anxiety and stress, boosting our physical and mental energy through releasing hormones and neurotransmitters known to make us feel good, such as endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine. Getting active does not have to be anything too physically strenuous. Finding activities you enjoy and ones you want to make part of your life, not just activities you think you should be doing. Before you start exercising, if you experience compulsive or addictive feelings about exercise, medication side effects, or other health problems, it is a good idea to talk to your doctor first. When we feel low or anxious, we can get very caught up with worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. We've all done it before, where we spend time thinking about something that went wrong in the past or worrying about what might happen in the future. It can really affect how we're feeling despite not being in that moment. It can create a lot of internal chatter. By moving our focus to things that are happening in the present, we can move away from this chatter. Studies have shown that being aware of what is happening in the present moment can directly enhance our well-being. Some people might refer to it as mindfulness, which has been demonstrated to be effective at reducing symptoms of depression and reducing the likelihood of relapse in people who have experienced depression. Take notice can mean different things for different people. It might be taking notice of yourself, or it could simply be taking more time to focus on the activity you are doing rather than the internal chatter. It sounds simple, but it can be really hard to do simple activities without the distraction of our phones or getting caught up with the thoughts in our head. Practice is key though, and just starting off with doing one thing mindfully for a couple of minutes each day can make a real difference. You probably feel like you're already doing enough learning, but this type of learning is about things that matter to you. Research shows that learning new skills can improve our mental well-being by giving us a sense of purpose and boosting our self-esteem. People engaged in learning report feeling better about themselves and a greater ability to cope with stress, as well as feeling more self-confident, hopeful, and purposeful. There's a reason so many people were making banana bread and randomly taking up running over lockdown. It gave us a sense of purpose during a really difficult time, and for many would have helped lift their mood. We also had the days where we did nothing all day in lockdown and ended up feeling a lot worse for it. So there's a reason for this. Neuroscientists have found that giving is associated with an enhanced response in the reward areas of the brain and gives us a feeling of purpose and self-worth. It could be small acts of kindness towards other people or larger ones like volunteering in your local community. Either way, giving doesn't have to involve money. Time can be just as important.
By incorporating as many of these coping strategies as possible into our daily routines, we can look after our mental health and mood. If you are using these coping strategies to take care of yourself, but are still experiencing some of the changes we mentioned earlier, it might be time to seek some support.
It's okay to want to deal with things by yourself, but opening up can really make us feel supported and be able to cope with things better. It's really okay to seek support.
A lot of people associate their GP with physical health. However, 1 in 3 GP appointments can be associated with mental health. So it's very normal to go to your GP in regards to your mental health. Some ways that your GP can help support you with your mental health is looking at services such as CAMS, counselling services, CBT services, or medication.
Many schools have a school nurse, support services, and many have a school counsellor. But a teacher may be a good place to start to discuss your difficulties with. It's good to open up, and sometimes it's good to open up to someone who's trusted and someone who knows you well, like a teacher.
Harrow Horizons offer free mental health and therapeutic support such as counselling. You can self-refer or get a parent or carer to help you. You do not need to be referred from your GP.
Koof is a free confidential online service where you can speak to trained therapists. You can also have access to a forum where you can also discuss your difficulties with other young people.
Childline are a free confidential listening service. There is no problem too big or small to talk to them about. Their number is 0800 1111.
Finally, we are going to be looking at how to support a friend or family member who may be struggling with their mental health. We've put together a handy acronym to help you support a friend or family member during difficult times.
I frequently find when someone asks me, "How are you?" I immediately say, "I'm fine, thanks." And I don't actually open up on how I'm feeling. So I find that if someone asks me again when we've broken the ice and settled down, and they ask, "How are you?" I'm more likely to actually say what's going on with me, because you feel much safer and happier in that environment.
Yeah, I know for me, especially when someone asks me, "How are you?" my reflex reaction is to just say, "Yeah, I'm completely fine," when I might not be. And I also feel like something that's really useful that I found is that when I'm kind of talking to someone or opening up to someone, that they just kind of listen and they don't kind of judge me, and that makes me feel really safe. So just kind of giving me like an open space to kind of just vent my feelings is something that I find really useful.
I think also telling someone that you're there for them is really important. You're not there to advise, you're just there to listen, and active listening is so important when someone's going through a bad time.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like just having that support and them just kind of being there to listen is really important as well when they don't try to kind of solve my problems. Like sometimes I feel like they don't know how I feel and they're trying to figure out how I feel. But because they don't know, they're trying to solve my problems in a way that I don't really find useful. So I think kind of just not trying to problem solve and just kind of giving support and just being there is something that is really useful for me.
Definitely. And I think, offering to go to a GP appointment because they might not feel comfortable with their guardian or carer. So, just saying that you're there to give support and then finding out what the next steps are. So finding out, do they want to be checked in a week? Do they want daily checkups? Do they want to make some plans over the next weeks? So that they just know that you're there supporting them.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to kind of be encouraged to seek support because when I was going through a rough time myself, a lot of my friends kind of encouraged me to talk to someone that I trusted, like a doctor or a teacher or even like my parents. And that encouragement was what I needed to kind of open up to them because I felt like it's normal to open up to people. And I felt like them offering to come with me was also something that was really useful because I didn't really want to go alone and it made me feel a lot less overwhelmed and a lot more supported.
Definitely. And I think also having a knowledge of what services are available in your local area so you can encourage them to go to those services if someone is struggling. I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely.
If you are worried that your friend could be at risk to themselves or others, make sure you tell a trusted adult as soon as you can, like a parent or teacher. If you feel comfortable, you can tell your friend you're going to do this, so they expect it. They may not like it or ask you not to, but their safety is important. If it's an emergency, ask an adult to call 999 or to take them to the hospital.
If you'd like to find out more about the HeadsUp project and the services that we offer, you can go on our website or also go on our social media page and follow us.